Welcome to the Raw Honesty podcast with Fitz, where I invite people with a genuine love of learning to confront their moral blind spots and peel away their unrecognized mental barriers that prevent genuine freedom from becoming a reality. So stick around as we dive in with this week's guest. Welcome back to episode 3 of Raw Honesty. My guest today is Nolan. And before I introduce Nolan, I just want to go over a couple of the requirements that I have when I run this podcast. And that is that I will leave people free to speak up until the point which I see they're going off the topic that we're on. And also if there's any clarity that I'm wanting to get from them. If that sort of is an approach that bothers you, I still encourage you to stick around because that's when we get the surprises and the real value comes out. So without any further delay, I'm going to introduce Nolan. G'day, Nolan.
Hi, Fitz. Great to be here, mate.
Yeah, so we've had a few attempts at getting this recorded and it's failed miserably. So let's hope third time lucky, my friend. Tell us what you've come here to discuss today.
I want to discuss the separation that I've had through my peers, especially regarding people within the local church that I was within the suburbs of Adelaide at the time, and the effects that had on my the way I could see the way people operate, type of thing. How the conscious mind works and the subconscious mind works, the discovery that's happened through these processes through myself and others.
So as I'm understanding it, you've gone on a huge learning curve, a massive trajectory, because you're using words that are not common in everyday language. Like if you were to approach the everyday layperson with what you've just said, they most likely would be looking at you sideways. So how did that happen that you've gone on this trajectory versus to what the everyday individual has stayed stuck at? What do you reckon was the difference for you? How did you get to that stage?
Well, I had to know. I was desperate. I mean, I had a mortgage to pay, and I knew that there was something not quite right about the jabs. I was working for. I worked for one company that was doing fake COVID cleans, so that was quite obvious that something's not quite right here. Not when.
So let me just stop you. What do you mean by fake COVID cleans?
Oh well, you could get called into one of the smaller mental health homes type of thing, and there's one around Hillcrest, and to go in there and to do a COVID clean for a cell that the person that used that cell didn't have COVID, and there's nobody with COVID going into that cell. But I guess, to call it a path job, well, yeah, fine, it's COVID, because the path allowance is quite increases the the billing for the job. So yeah, it's there was a number of jobs like that happened around Adelaide at the time. The Modbury primary school, high school.
I want to ask you. You said the word cell. It sounds like it was a prison.
It was for dangerous, hostile mental health.
Oh, I see. Right.
Yeah, people. That we've done one of those jobs. I didn't do that one. There was others that had happened around the time.
So, from what I'm understanding, this is something about people taking advantage of a situation to enrich themselves, and you were aware of this and you'd witnessed it.
Yeah, I could see this upright. Yeah, it was just people are willing to go along with that because there's a financial incentive.
Yeah, so there's a personal
that's
gain.
What it is. I did
something about a personal gain.
I did do the walk. Yeah, personal gain.
Yeah, right. So there was that enticement for personal gain.
Hmm.
That's a really big theme that I've noticed. And that's probably why my guess is you've gone on a different trajectory because once you leave that enticement of personal gain, that's when growth can happen. But once you stay stuck in that you're still entrenched in, what I can get for myself, that self-indulgence, there cannot be any growth. Can you
Hmm.
recognize that at all? What I've just said there?
Yeah, I mean, there's from what I'm interpreting that is that it a person could basically just shut their consciousness down. I mean, when I say consciousness, I mean the person could do their best to close that person on the shoulder that says what you're doing is wrong. And I guess that person is looking to that little monkey on the shoulder and going, yeah, but it pays, an extra $40 an hour or something. So we don't want to hear any more out of you.
Kind of like,
And then,
would it be something like the police now that are being offered a 40% pay increase? Something similar to that to keep doing what they're doing?
I don't know about
Yeah, haven't you,
that.
haven't you heard about that? There's a massive incentive being given, and that's never happened in the history. We've never had a massive pay increase like that for anybody. And while other people are struggling to rub two pennies together, all of a sudden, if you're going to be an enforcer of immorality, you're going to get a 40% pay increase. And why do they need to incentivize them? My guess is because their moral compass is catching up with them and they can't handle it and they're starting to really crack. So if you're addicted to that kind of way of overriding your moral compass, then it's worth a shot, wouldn't you say? That's what I'd do if I was going to try and control people.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, yeah, so some kind of incentive. I mean, if I was a dominator that wanted more lackeys to do my bidding, and then those guys get the karmic debt for taking the action that I'm telling them to do, then yeah, giving them some more uh, manufactured money would be one way to keep them going, and amongst other forms of
I, I,
mind control.
I guess we'll see the outcome of that, how many people do take it and then keep putting themselves through it. That's something we're going to see. The deterioration of an entire structure, that internalized cannibalization, and that eating away at whatever's left of one's soul. I'm
Yeah.
very sort of aware that that's been in train for so long, but now we're kind of getting to that level where it's getting really in your face and it's hard to ignore because the cost of living is starting to escalate. There's less and less people being able to, keep their households together. It's starting to really stress people out. And then, there's this massive pay increase given to the people who are holding it all together, the ones who will follow the orders without asking questions. I mean, if that's not a desperate cry to keep the whole structure together, I don't know what is. What's your take on that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess the word integrity comes to mind, and integrity in the form of like a building's integrity, its structure type of thing. If the individual that works for that business, company, corporation, they're sort of having doubts, and they're not their whole mind is they're not an integrated being. They're parts of their own integrity falling away, like a few columns are, aren't holding together too well. Then they'll come apart, and that means the whole business will start to collapse from there. And I guess the mindset that people have, well, there's nothing I can do about anything. I'm just some kind of victim or something. Well, once they actually just do the simple thing of calling out wrong and one of the dominators has their integrity shattered, well, it's quite easy to bring down. I mean, the whole thing's based on a lie, so it's got no real integrity. If it was based on honesty and morality, then it's pretty well unshakable.
It's self-sustaining, yeah. So I want to go
Hmm.
back to when you said doing fake COVID cleans. Were you engaged to do that? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, look, I did one. That was the old Walkerville uh, repatriation hospital. They changed it. They moved that to Angus Street, in the city, the old one. And people, I said, yeah, I'm working on that building. We had to clean it all up for when ECH brought it, Elderly Care Homes, brought that from the Repat Hospital, and we had to clean it all up, all the gutters and the rooms and whatever. And people are telling me, oh, that's the COVID hospital. I'm going, no, the job's here in my app. It's on Airflow. Here's who's brought it. Here's who's the job for. And they go, no, you're wrong. It's a COVID hospital. I'm like, no, I work there. That's what I'm doing. And people are like convinced what they've seen on TV. I do remember a news some guy turned, a few people, reporters turned up and just, I looked over there. They were there for a bit, and then they went, and they've created a whole false story that no, there was a COVID hospital. People were in there suffering COVID. It's like, no, they're not. In reality, I was there. I know that's not true because I've worked there. I
So,
know who brought the
so,
building.
you, so
I
you're
know the managers.
you're saying that you actually witnessed false reporting? Is that what you're saying?
No, yeah, totally, 100%. I did. I seen the news crew there. They wasn't a mass crew. It's just one person with a camera and one or two other people. They weren't there too long. They just put the camera on the building there in Walkerville, and they hung around for a bit, and they cooked up a story from that. And I think the story they gave was, this is where they're going to start, throwing all the people who are dying from COVID in there, when in reality, Elderly Care Homes brought that building because it had like a big swimming pool in there for, people who have had bad injuries and stuff, and they can do slow recovery within that pool. They can lower people in and out. And Elderly Care Homes had one building. They brought about four at the same time. Brought one in a few suburbs. They brought one in Salisbury, and yeah, a few other places
Let,
at the
let,
time. And
let me ask you this, Nolan. When
mm,
you witnessed that um, that reporting happen, what do you recall
yeah,
being your internal reaction? Do you recall what it felt like when you witnessed it?
I was kind of like bloody Twilight Zone or something, because I've got friends who are absolutely, totally, 100% convinced that was a COVID hospital. Doesn't matter, what I tell them. I tell them that I worked there. There was no COVID victims there. It's not what that building was. Never was.
So yeah, so
It's what they had was an absolute lie, and they've swallowed the whole thing down, and they're not going to give it up.
was your disbelief to the fact that how easily that story was believed? Was that what the disbelief was, or that the media would actually do that deliberately?
Oh, look, I mean, anybody can throw a lie out there.
Yeah.
I guess it's the absolute mind. I've told people, they've been hypnotised by this, and they just get upset, and well, they have. And I mean, nobody can. People sit there and think they can watch the television and pick out bits that they like and what they take on. They've got no idea the symbolism, the colours, and the programming that actually goes into the subconscious when they park their head in front of that machine. They're being mind controlled, like, totally. And
So
I've seen it straight
was
up.
there something about the willingness of how eager, like there was an energy and an enthusiasm for that to happen on a mass scale? Was there something really painful
Um,
about that?
there was an energy enthusiasm. I seen like just a bit of a fearful uncertainty within that person. It's just like, the shaking of a couple people, told me, were convinced
So
that, it wasn't ECH.
are you saying that when you were giving them information that was opposing what they believed, that's when they started
Yeah.
shaking?
They were sort of, they were in shutdown mode. They were just like, they couldn't accept the truth of it. They were just like, no, it's just what they had in their head was the only reality.
So now
So
we're moving into the space of authority and the belief in such a thing. Because I remember saying this, when I was being really more what's the word? When I'd chase people down a foxhole, when I was more like that at the
Yeah,
beginning, and I'd really
yeah,
pursue people and I'd put it right in their faces. And the more they got resistant, the harder I went. And I found this pattern, that I'd just go, hang on a sec, you're resisting?
yeah,
Well, here, let me give it to you in double dose then. Um, and that was a learning curve for me. It was a steep one, and I used to see them as being
yeah.
like mentally retarded. Like, why won't you accept the truth? It's so obvious. I'm asking you questions you cannot answer and you refuse to answer. And the answers you're giving me are so flimsy and you're accepting it. And here I am trying to get you to give me more detail and you refuse to, right? It used to really incense me. And I remember that. I remember being really like hard, and going at it and it would just aggravate me beyond belief. So, one of the learning curves for me was that the harder I pushed, what I really achieved out of that was even deeper resistance. And
Hmm.
that was really hard for me to swallow. Like I really struggled with that. I thought, "Hey, why would people want to refuse the truth? Because by refusing the truth, they're actually making more pain and misery for themselves and those people they actually say they love and
Hmm.
care for." I couldn't fathom that. That
Hmm.
drove me insane. Um, so I'm wondering if you can recognize any of that in yourself.
Yeah, I was I kind of baffled as to what was going on and why they were clinging to this stuff. My father nearly died. He was obsessed with these jabs and the Russian one too. That was a well, I guess it must have been all over the television talking about some kind of Sputnik jab, and I don't know whether he had that one as well. But he near died. It was lucky that he's lucky that he knows people that had a bit of compassion on him and did a spiritual healing. Um, it, uh, yeah,
So what you're
it
bringing
was
up, I'm just going to interrupt you because what you're bringing up here is something very deeply personal now.
yeah.
And what your motivation was as to why you were so eager and the truth to get it through into people's skulls, why it was so urgent for you, because you actually had a very deep and emotional attachment to an outcome, because of the attachment to the lie. And it isn't until you really start getting that visceral experience of the cost of accepting the lie, um, that's the part that I'm getting that has been missed in a lot of this. That hasn't been really given enough airtime. Is what it's like to have someone that you care for deeply, um, you know, slipping through your fingers, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's just a sheer, it seems like a miracle that's pulled them through. But what is it like to sit on that knife's edge for so long?
uh it's one of those things. I do myself in just going over this. It's like um, what's the point of me going a bit full on? I guess with my father, I kind of had a moment because he looked really bad, and it was kind of the reverse roles where I'm grilling him for a moment. So what have you done? How many did you take?
Yeah,
Like could see he went downhill real quick.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
and
let's just stay with that for a moment. What was it like for you to witness that? Do you remember what it felt like?
oh, it was like I could see the child within him that's like it's sort of like being busted doing something that that, that he shouldn't have been doing, and he's like, well, I don't know, just going into denial about how many
So
jabs it actually had.
how was it to see your father so vulnerable like that?
Um, wasn't. It was.
Well, that he was
Oh,
cowering and backtracking, to you. You're his
yeah,
son, right?
yeah. Well, it was something I would rather not experience, and it's something that's just it's another field. I've been doing what I can to try to unwrap these things. It's not a experience that I personally want to step out to experience. It's um I
What
just wanted him to get well and deal with what was going on in an honest mind, to stop lying about it, basically, and just come clean and get on with it. And
was there something
even
deep? was there something deeply unnerving or unsettling about seeing him in that position where he was actually like a kid who's been caught with his hand in the cookie jar?
Um, yeah, it is. It is. It's just it's
It's
for
not what
me like it's like
it's not what
yeah
you would
yeah
expect from your father, my guess is.
yeah yeah for myself, and I'm questioning myself, going, why is he lying to me? What's he got to gain from that? It's just why it's
Yes,
like willing to actually die to hang on to this idea. I mean,
that I want.
when he did get there, yeah.
I
So
want to stay with that. That's really, really powerful what you're bringing forward now. So I'm
hmm,
really going to want to stay with that because you said something critical, and that is that he's willing to die to protect the lie.
yeah.
What is that like to witness your father, your very own father, the reason why you're even here? What was that like for you?
I
Like, can you
well,
step back? Can you step back?
honestly,
Can
yeah,
you step back into that moment and can you feel
yeah,
into it?
I can, and I look at that, and I just, where's humanity at to be, at this level, this level of what I'll say now, to the word that comes to mind, this level of consciousness, and it's just it's frustrating. I guess I know
Well,
what it's to be. I know what it. Yeah, the low end, low consciousness order follower. I have been there myself, so it takes, may take a couple of decades to actually break that. And it's frustrating. It's kind of like, I'd want to just say, "Oh, hey, you've got something on your shirt. Let me wipe that off," and it's gone. It's there. It frustrates me. I want to help people, and it's seems to be beyond me
so
majority of the time.
so here's a something that just showed up. Would there be something about the
Yeah.
helplessness in that moment of witnessing your father cowering like that, and like fumbling, trying to clamber for some kind of platform where he could, regain his dignity, and just seeing it all come
Yeah.
unravel? Would there be something really deeply distressing about that?
Oh yeah, the big time. It's just, I mean, it's somebody, I had my own fears when it seemed as though people, there was plenty of fear videos that were getting around at the time saying, the military's going to go around door to door, dragging people out and jabbing them and stuff. And I'm thinking, what do I do? Where do
Yeah,
I go, sort of thing.
yeah,
And I'm trying to reach out to other people, and the people I'm reaching out to are telling me, oh no, get as many of them in your body as you can.
yeah. So what I'm hearing out of that is like hardcore, like concentration camp style panic.
Yeah, I did. That was the worst of it that I experienced. That was around October 21, and that's when the fear was ramped up. And I think that they pushed it up, and they were that was one that rattled me. I mean, other things like, oh, people won't be able to get on an aeroplane if they're unjabbed. I mean, that's just like here or there. It just didn't really concern me. What did concern me with the the threat of the military doing this um, to the general community is, well, they are order followers. They're trained to do this. They're drilled into acting and not thinking. So what the military do? The modern military, if they're asked to do this, well, they'd follow orders. So it was a bit concerning.
Well,
Um,
you've just
yeah,
raised two things, right? You've witnessed the media actively cook up a false story, and then now you've actually
yeah,
raised, which is one type of fear mongering, right? And then you've raised the story that the military now are coming to grab people out of their homes. So that's two separate media stories you've raised that were
mm,
quite, I would go as far as to say, as trauma inducing,
yeah, definitely, yeah,
to have that play out to the point where it gets so unbelievable that you don't even know how to respond because you yourself would never even think to even behave like that. And I reckon my guess is that's what took a lot of people off guard, is they weren't prepared for this kind of behavior because that's not available in their consciousness. And possibly the reason why so many people complied is because they could never imagine that there could be such a deliberate action to do something so wickedly vile. That's my guess as to why so many people just accepted it, because their consciousness can't conceive that kind of level of wickedness would ever exist in reality. I'm wondering, when I say that, can you recognize anything around that as to why you had so many people in denial, and like your dad is one of them?
I guess, people. I mean, one thing comes to mind. I guess there's family members done military service and things like this, and these things are considered to be honourable and righteous, and we are kind of hammered with the idea that Australians have high moral standards type of thing, and we do what's right. Sometimes there's tough love and there's things like this that we put on each other, rah rah rah, but that there wouldn't ever be. I guess I had another guy that I worked with for a while, and the idea that there would be evil order followers in the military would not they just would not accept that, any part of that being in the Australian military, that if the military was giving an order, then it'd obviously be the right action, be the right course of action every time. There would never be any malicious intent behind that, and it would always be an honourable, decent thing to do.
So
Um,
I want to qualify the word evil just for anyone who's listening. You might have your own interpretation, but this is the way I'm going to put it forward, and I'm going to see how it lands for you. If evil is live spelt backwards, then it's to live backwards. And what does it mean to live backwards? It's to spiral down into a dense place of depravity and bondage. How do you associate with that definition?
yeah, I kind of more so. Yeah, that makes sense. I've been looking at one interpretation of the material world placed above the spiritual, the evil being the lack of spiritual aspect, and you know the male dominator type left brain thinking being placed above all. The logic there
Oh, so
with absence
that's
of
what, yeah.
rationale.
Well, what I'm
Yeah,
hearing is that there's like when we get stuck in the intellect, and that's all about rational,
yeah,
really
yeah,
abstract thinking, we lose our contact with our heart centers. And so then
yes.
there's no real compassion or connection to life. We become separated from it. And then it's very easy to do harm to others because we've stopped feeling. I'm guessing that's what you're sort of alluding to.
Yeah, that's exactly it fits. I know what you mean
Yeah.
exactly, and that's basically exactly you've interpreted what I was saying another way. The exact meaning that I was trying to put forward. Yeah,
Yeah. So back to what was saying earlier when I cut you off. So you were on that path of how, how could the military ever, the idea is that the Australian military is above board, right? You know, um, during Gallipoli, right, we were used as cannon fodder, so we would never do that to anybody else. We would never put anyone else through that because we as a nation suffered that. There's this idea, and also we've been pumped with this collectivist ideology that we're the lucky country, and that's why so many people are beating a path to our door because we've never had any kind of real disruption or disturbing conflicts, that has torn families apart. So there's that push, that there's this camaraderie here, and we give. What's that thing that Morrison used to say? Um, Something about fair go. If you have a go, you get a go. I remember him used to say that years ago, right? So they're
uh, yeah,
constantly pushing this collectivist ideology on people without knowing that it is a collectivist ideology. That they speak for everybody. That there's this one Australian identity.
yes,
That's that hard battler. That has a fair go. And everyone gets a fair go, all that kind of stuff. But in reality, that's never existed. So you were talking about that, some version of that, where that was really difficult for you once you found out that that was being pushed, that this military that's, squeaky clean is going to come and violate you in the most intimate of ways.
Yeah.
So
Um,
did you have more to say on that one?
no, no, no. That's yeah. What I said was came out the way I wanted to say it.
Yeah.
So
So
that's it.
so now we're stuck in this place, right, where you have a very intimate experience of this critical moment where you could be losing someone very precious to you, and now they're behaving in ways you've never witnessed before that you didn't know that they were capable of, which is like quite traumatizing and shocking. And then you're trying to do what you can to recruit as many people, because we're all reliant on each other, to start seeing the truth, and then you're just getting resistance. And so my guess is that that gets really excruciatingly unbearable, as to how to even like move forward. So what do you do now?
Um, I go on and just to call out wrongdoing and to take right action.
So
Um,
in spite of all the resistance, that actually spurs you to keep going. Is that right?
exactly, it does. Look, if I'm gonna, be open, honest with my life experience and what the way my life has changed since, I refuse to bow down to tyranny, and the people I put on notice were the people who made the physical demands, the procurements contracts when with ECH where I lost my contract. When I put these people on, I say no. This is not right. And when we get trial by a jury back, your case is coming up. When I do these things, and I don't take any group legal payout or any garbage that doesn't really address justice, then my life changes. After that, I did some miracles. My leg was out of action. I'd done a hamstring. My car was in the workshop. I had thousands of dollars to pay to get the engine rebuilt. It ended up getting worse than what I thought. And I had a mortgage and everything. And I got the mortgage paid. I got by. People give me a bit of work. Even though I had a busted hamstring, I still managed to work and do what I had to do. I got through that period. It pushed me in other directions where I ended up the welding contracts that I lost. The guys that did get the jab, they all fell sick, and I had to come back out there. Then after that, I ended up meeting an unvaccinated woman in Europe, and we got together. I got to spend 5 months in Europe with her. I had a great experience out of that. Obviously, there were the fear, the false, the lie that people who don't get vaccinated can't fly. Well, there was no truth to that. I've had a great experience through pursuing truth, and I know through experience it's not something I believe in; it's something I know, and it's changed my life. And for me now, it's like, well, uh, it's something I choose to do. I know when my conscience is louder now than ever. I drove down Port Wakefield Road a few weeks back, and there's an aluminium door sitting on the highway, and I just thought, well, somebody else is going to pick that up. I drove down. I drove down. My conscience is going, yeah, yeah, like everybody's driving past, going, well, somebody else is going to pick that up, and I just thought, just turn around, go back. And I had to go back. I had to go down the Port Adelaide Express and the servo, and then find my way up there. And then I picked it up and threw it in the back of my van and took it back with me. I might even be able to build something with it later.
Do you
But
know, I'm really loving that story, Nolan. And I'm interrupting for a reason, because I want to let you know that all the hairs are standing up on my arms as you're telling me that story. Because
yeah,
what I'm loving about that is that you are standing in your power to take personal responsibility, as opposed to delegating it, and believing that it's someone else's responsibility, because that's the essence, as I've come to understand it, as to how we've all gotten into this mess, is we believe that it's other people's job to do that which we're capable of doing. And that's that old saying, never leave for others to do what you yourself are capable of. And there's a saying something like that. And so we
Yeah,
don't even live true to these truths that are carried through generations. And here you are, going, hang on a second, something's prickling at me, and I'm going to stop denying. I'm going to listen to it. And then you went and took the action. I mean, to me,
yeah,
that to me is where life becomes beautiful. So I just wanted to interrupt just to let you know what effect that had on me, listening to you say that.
yeah. It does. Yeah, it's great to hear that you had that experience through me telling that story. When I was out there, I waited for the traffic to stop. I run out and grabbed it, and there was looked like mother and daughter in a little hatchback. They were seeing, they started beeping their horn and waving at me. They knew what I was doing, and they were like, "Yeah, thanks for pulling that off." But I guess what I within this reality, what I do comes back the way I interact with others and stuff, and it has a direct impact on my life. And I felt plenty of the negative aspects of that. I didn't come across this guy being a saint, and so I know this stuff works 100%.
Well, you're living
It's
it. It sounds like you're living into it now, like you're really getting that confirmation of when you stand in alignment with truth. Yes, you will come up with adversarial experiences that are excruciating, but what that does is, when you're really driven by the truth, is that actually strengthens your resolve and your character and your qualities, and it burns off those impurities that
yeah.
you wouldn't be doing if you had the comforts. So it sounds like you're really getting an embodied understanding of that. And now that you've had that understanding, and this is just me making a guess, by the way, there's nothing that can stop it. It can't be extinguished now. Am I close to the ballpark there?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's definitely right. It's um yeah, it's something I know. It's something I've experienced. It's not something I believe in, or I watch videos about somebody else doing it. It's something that I've applied. So it's it's yeah. So I'd be going against myself to try to shut consciousness down and pretend that I'm not responsible for my actions, and that my actions the outcomes are random, sort of thing. And I'd be lying to myself. I'd be going back into uh, forms of self delusion and stuff. And I guess couple of years back, there was separation conscience was a big one, um, I'm just relieved not to live like that today. I'm glad that I can, to the best, to the better of my ability, be reasonably honest with myself. But I guess there's aspects of myself that people can see that I can't, and I guess there'll always be growth. But there's definitely peace and bit of peace and contentment, and to doing what's right, rather than being in a job title and basically trying to dominate others to get a better position, or but trying to be part of a domination structure to um how can I put it, be the leader of the race, or something like that. It's um it just it doesn't sit right with me, and it does. There's no rewards for that. There's negative rewards for that.
Another way to put it is a hostile competitor,
Yeah,
which
hostile
which is
competitor sort of
yeah.
thing. Yeah,
So we're pretty much at the end of our time, Nolan. I just really
yeah.
want to thank you for sharing and opening up. That has been really, really powerful for me as
Oh,
being
thanks.
on this end. If you're listening to this and you are inspired to want to come share your story, I welcome you to get in touch. This has been episode number 3 with Nolan. Again, thanks so much, Nolan, for joining us today.
Thanks, Fitz.
Belief is a toxic and dangerous attitude toward reality, I think. After all, if it's there, it doesn't require your belief. And if it's not there, why should you believe in it? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.